time period, I need to sell my foreign investment, convert it back into dollars so I can spend it here. So a couple of things that we need to know. How much interest are we going to earn? Just think about this as the rate of return. And what's going to happen to the valuation of the assets, including getting it back into U.S. dollar terms. So here's an example. We're going to start in year one. We're still going to start in year one, but we're going to start with $1 million. Okay, we're going to invest it for 1 year. In the United States, the interest rate is 5%. In Japan, the interest rate is 10%. And the current spot exchange rate is 100 to 1. So the first question we want to ask ourselves is, do we want to invest in the U.S. or do we want to invest in Japan? So one way to think about it is to just work it out. We start up here with $1 million in year one in the U.S. We know we can invest in the U.S. at 5%. So at the end of 1 year, we would have $1,050,000. Well, we have an alternative. We can convert our $1 million into 100 million yen. We can now invest that at 10%. So 1 year from now, if we take the second approach, we would have 110 million yen. So which investment should we make? I'm sorry? Japan? Okay. So one of the things that we need to know is what do we think the exchange rate is going to be out here? If I make the investment in the United States, I know exactly how much I have in dollar terms 1 year from now. But if I invest in Japan, all I know is that I've got 110 million yen. I want to know how many dollars I have. Right? So I've got to know what this exchange rate is to bring this money back. Well, let's just suppose that this exchange rate is 104.76. Now, I just didn't make that number up, because if I take 110 million yen and convert it at 104.76, guess how many dollars I end up with? 1,050,000. So 104.76 is basically our break-even, right? It's where we get exactly the same dollar return, making the investment either domestically or in Japan at those interest rates. By the way, this is how they figure out what the 1 year forward exchange rate should be. It should give you the riskless arbitrage. All we need to know is what these interest rates are. So let's just think about how this might change under the following conditions. Suppose the U.S. interest rate goes to 10%. Where do you want to invest? The U.S. or Japan? Same spot rate, 104.76. In the U.S., right? Suppose that the Japanese interest rate went to 15%. Same spot rate, same U.S. rate. Where would you want to invest? Japan. Okay. Now, suppose that the exchange rate somehow was 110. Where would you want to invest? Yeah, the easy way to think about it is suppose the exchange rate didn't change at all, and it was at 100. With 110 million yen, the exchange rate was 100. It went down. What? We lop off a bunch of zeros here. We've got 110. We got $1.1 million. So if the expected exchange rate goes down, we want to invest in Japan. If the expected exchange rate goes up, we want to invest in the U.S. Now remember, if we want to invest more, we need to have more currency. The demand for the domestic currency will change. Now, it turns out that when the forward exchange rate, or the exchange rate, is 104.76, we have, as I mentioned, a risk-free arbitrage. It does not matter. This is sometimes referred to as covered interest parity. Your risk has been covered. When we eliminate the forward rate and we only use the expected future rate, we now have what is known as uncovered interest parity. Your risk has been uncovered. You're only expecting that forward rate, or expecting that future exchange rate. It's not locked in. It's one way to gamble or speculate on foreign exchange movements. So, as we saw, if the expected future rate was going to be higher than 104.76, you actually want to invest in the United States, increases the demand for dollar-denominated assets, leads to a current appreciation of the dollar and a depreciation of the yen. So if we expect more appreciation, we want more of that currency now, which leads to appreciation now. If the expected future exchange rate was less than 104, we would be much better off investing in Japan, increasing the demand for Japanese yen and Japanese yen-denominated assets. This will appreciate the yen and depreciate the dollar. So what happens to the expected future interest rate, as well as the expected future exchange rate, as well as both the domestic and the foreign interest rate, are going to tell us a lot about the demand for the domestic currency, and therefore whether the currency will appreciate or depreciate. Now, in our diagram, we have the exchange rate on the vertical axis, and again, the quantity of dollar-denominated assets on our vertical axis. Remember that the exchange rate depends in part on the expected future exchange rate. So let's suppose that the expected future exchange rate is equal to 100. So 1 year from now, we think it's going to be 100. And let's suppose that right now, the actual exchange rate is 50. So if the actual exchange rate is 50, but we expect it to be at 100 a year from now, would you expect the demand for the currency to be high or low? If I buy the foreign currency, I give up $1, I get 50 yen. But a year from now, I expect to be able to get 100 yen. Did I say that right? Yeah, I said that right. Low. Okay. Let me phrase that differently. Suppose you're Japanese. And right now, you can buy dollars at, give up 50 yen to get $1. A year from now, you would have to give up 100 yen to get $1. Is your demand for U.S. dollars going to be high or low? Not only high, but probably very high, right? So at 50, we probably have a demand way out here. Now let's suppose that the current exchange rate is 100. We still expect it to be 100 a year from now. Now, relative to when it was 50, would you expect your demand to be higher or lower for U.S. dollars? Lower, right? There's got to be no appreciation. So whatever you've got, there's now going to be less demand for U.S. dollars. Now suppose the exchange rate's 150. You still expect it to be 100 a year from now. You want to buy dollars today at 150 or dollars a year from now at 100? A year from now. So the current demand for dollars would be somewhat low. So the demand for dollar-denominated assets will be inversely related to the current exchange rate for any given future exchange rate. Now we can put all this together, right? And what we've got is an equilibrium exchange rate. If we're not at that exchange rate, we're above it, what we would have is excess supply, and the currency would depreciate. And as it depreciated, that would increase the demand for dollars until we got back to equilibrium. If the currency was below the equilibrium level, we would have excess demand. This excess demand would cause the currency to appreciate. As the currency appreciated relative to a given expected future interest rate, then quantity demanded would fall. Again, this is a very liquid, very deep financial market. These changes take place almost instantaneously. It's very, very difficult to arbitrage these changes. Now, if the supply curve is fixed, as we've assumed, then any changes in the nominal exchange rate are going to come about because of changes in the demand side. And the easiest way to see the demand side is to go back to our uncovered interest parity condition. I'm not going to derive this for you. If you're interested, we can show that. But notice what we have. The current exchange rate depends upon the domestic interest rate, the foreign interest rate, and the expected future exchange rate. Now, in the short run, prices are sticky. So whatever happens to the nominal numbers also happens to the real numbers. So in this case, the demand curve for domestic currency-denominated assets will shift if there's a change in either the domestic real interest rate, the foreign real interest rate, or the expected future exchange rate. Notice that because we have the domestic real interest rate, it means domestic shocks to the domestic economy, which cause the real interest rate to change, will then also cause the exchange rate to change. And if the exchange rate changes, we've already seen that that's going to affect net exports, which are in the IS curve, in the aggregate demand curve. And we'll be looking much more closely at that on Thursday. But quickly, we can see here, domestic real interest rate. If the domestic real interest rate goes up, domestic assets have a higher rate of return. There will be greater demand for domestic denominated assets. The demand curve will shift to the left, the other left, the right, and we should get an appreciation of the currency. How about the foreign real interest rate? If the real interest rate in the foreign country increases, now we've seen that foreign denominated assets will be relatively more attractive, so the demand for domestic currency denominated assets will fall, and that will lead to a currency depreciation. And then finally, what happens if the expected future exchange rate increases? So if we expect more appreciation of the currency, that gives us a greater return in dollar-denominated terms. So the dollar-denominated assets, the demand for dollar-denominated assets, again, will increase, and that causes the domestic currency to appreciate. Notice we can see all of those things in this equation. If the domestic interest rate rises, the exchange rate will rise. The foreign exchange rate rises. It's in the denominator, so that makes this expression smaller. The current exchange rate will decline. If the expected future exchange rate rises, the current exchange rate will rise as well. Okay, so next time we'll see how exchange rates affect the domestic economy and also what happens if we have fixed exchange rates. Just to let you know, problem set number 5 was posted earlier today, so you can have fun with that, or not.